What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dots Gaming, and today we're going to be going over a basic beginner's guide to every legend in Apex Legends. So a lot of the guides that I see here on YouTube for the various legends tend to cover a lot of advanced topics, tips, advanced ways to use their legends, tips and tricks like that, etc. But after playing with a couple of my viewers and seeing a lot of them struggle to understand some of the basics of each legend, just like when to use their abilities in certain situations, it gave me the idea to make this guide to give people who are just looking for like a quick start guide to every legend on just basically how to be competent with them very quickly, and then you'll eventually kind of learn a lot of those advanced tips and tricks over time and can dive into those guides later. Gave me the idea to make this guide based off of those interactions. So like I said, this is going to be a quick dive into each legend in Apex Legends, what their skills do, and what passives they have. So if you guys do like this video, of course, slap a like on it. If you have any questions about anything I go over, or any comments, feel free to leave one below. And guys, of course, subscribe to keep up with the rest of the Apex content I put up on this channel. So the first legend we have, of course, is Bloodhound. Now, Bloodhound's passive is Tracker, so foes will leave behind clues for you to find. So you'll have little indicators on the ground that will basically show you an action that someone did, whether they reloaded, there was a fight there, etc. And it will show you like a little timer around the edge of it so you can see how long ago it occurred. If the bar is full, that means that it was very recent, and if it's almost empty, that means it was quite a while ago. Your Q is the Eye of the Allfather, which will briefly reveal enemies, traps, and clues through structures in front of you, which is really good, so you can see through walls, basically, with your Q. And then you also have your ultimate Beast of the Hunt, which transforms you into an ultimate hunter, enhances your sense, allowing you to see cold tracks and move faster. So it basically makes his passive go on steroids, and then he gains a crap ton of additional movement speed, and he allows you're able to see tracks that were from longer ago, and you can also see your enemy's footsteps, and you basically kind of get digi threat vision, so you can see through smoke, and your enemies are just highlighted in red. Now, in my opinion, Bloodhound is one of the most beginner-friendly legend. His abilities are very, very straightforward to use, and I think as a new player, you'll be able to pick up Bloodhound very, very quickly. So on the screen right now, I'm going to show you a picture of what Bloodhound's passive is going to look like. I am in the firing range, so I don't think there's a way to really show it at the moment, but that is what his passive looks like and what you'll be seeing when you run around the map. And when you use your ultimate, you will have older versions of that appear, so you'll be able to see things that are further from the past, which allows you to just track down enemies over a greater distance. Now, the way that obviously you're going to want to use Bloodhound's Q is if you think that there's enemies in a building, or if you'd like to check if there's enemies in a building before you breach it, or if you're in a certain location and you think you hear somebody, you just hit the Q, and it'll show you where they are, and as you can see, it'll highlight them. Just like it showed, their outline will be highlighted, and they'll have a diamond on their chest, and your allies will be able to see that as well. Now, do keep in mind that when you do detect enemies, they will see on their screen that they have been detected. So it is something to keep in mind that if you do detect enemies, that they will also know you're nearby. So his Q, like I said, you think there's people around a location you're in, and you just want to ping it and check. Or if you're maybe about to, like I said, breach a building and you think there could be people in there and you just want to double check, using his Q beforehand is a really, really smart idea. Now, his ultimate makes him, like I said, move very, very fast. You can see enemies outlined in red, which I'll show you. But it does reduce your FOV a little bit. But as you can see, we move way faster. And you can see enemies outlined in red here. And like I said, you'd be able to see those passive tracks from a little bit more older tracks. You'll be able to see them from further in the past. So you want to use his ultimate if you're chasing somebody down, and in certain situations you can use it also if you're like need to play defensively. So maybe you're pinned in a location, you could use this and you'll have the speed boost to get away, which is it is good for that. But generally I would recommend using Bloodhound's ult offensively, because I think that is how you get the most bang for your buck out of it. Or if you're maybe fighting a team, they start to run away, they escape you guys, you pop his ultimate and you can track those guys down and know exactly where they are and start to lay some damage on them for your team. Our next legend is going to be Gibraltar. So Gibraltar is a tank-focused legend, while Bloodhound was a tracker. And Gibraltar has the fortified passive for being a larger legend. So he reduces incoming damage taken by 15%, and he's not slowed by bullets. We also have the passive gun shield for Gibraltar. So aiming down the sight deploys a gun shield that blocks incoming fire. It's an incredibly strong passive, gives him a lot of extra tank ability. His Q tactical is the Dome of Protection, which blocks attacks for 18 seconds, and healing items that you use under the dome are used 25% faster, which is really nice. So it gives you and your team fast healing. And then his ultimate is Defensive Bombardment, so you can call in a concentrated mortar strike in one position that you mark with smoke. Really, really good for zoning people out, deals a decent amount of damage, slows enemies. It's a really, really good ultimate. Gibraltar's gun shield is an extremely strong tool for him to have some extra tankiness on top of already having that fortified passive, and it really helps make up for his larger hitbox. So as you can see, whenever you ADS, you get this gun shield. Now you can toggle it if you would like to, if you don't want it up, and you can do that when aiming from a distance if you don't want people to kind of see the obvious tell that the gun shield has. But when fighting, you absolutely want to have this up because it adds a crap ton of additional tankiness to your character. Now, like I said, his Q deploys this gun shield, or excuse me, this dome. Now, bullets cannot go out of the dome, and bullets cannot go into the dome, both friendly and ally. And when you're in this, you have 25% fast healing. This is really, really good to basically deploy if you're in a certain situation where you guys need cover right now. Like, let's say you're fighting a group of enemies and they have the high ground on you guys. You can deploy this gun shield you can deploy the dome and basically give you and your team free cover to basically heal back up and maybe make an action plan for how you want to get out. Maybe you have a Pathfinder that wants to deploy a zipline, a Wraith that wants to use portals, etc. It's really, really good to give you guys some, oh shit, we need cover right now type of stuff. So it is very, very good for that. You can also use it in close quarters if you're maybe taking fire from enemy teams and you're just like, we need to have some cover right now. It is just deployable cover that can be used at any time. Really, really good as well if you're going for a res. If you're going to res on somebody, you throw this on their body and then go in for that res. And then when you're both in this cover, you'll have the cover, obviously, to prevent, bullets from hitting you. You guys can heal up quickly and then get back into the fight. Now, his ultimate is very, very good for two things: zoning enemies and third partying. So if you're going to maybe be going into a third party situation where you see two teams fighting and you want to go in and disrupt that, you can chuck his ult in and it will deal tons of damage to both teams, allowing you guys to go in for that easy cleanup. You could also use it if, there's a team that's trying to take a certain area and you don't want them to, and you want to zone them out of that area. You basically can toss the ult and it'll prevent them from going in that area, because if they go in that area, they're going to be taking a lot of damage from the Gibraltar ult, which will make it very, very easy for you guys to follow up and land kills on them. So that's how you want to use it, is for zoning. So if you don't want people to come into that, as you can see, very large area, you drop this on them and it deals 40 damage per tick. You could also use it on enemies if you're fighting in an open area and they're behind cover and you're behind cover, and you just want to, again, get them out of that area. You toss your ult on them and they'll have to move. Our next legend, one of my personal favorites, we have Lifeline. So Lifeline has the low profile passive, so she's more difficult to hit, increasing damage that she takes by 5%. Now, she also has another passive, Combat Medic. Revive knockdown teammates faster while protected by a shield wall. Healing items are used 25% faster. So Lifeline has built-in fast healing, which means that she really doesn't have an overly large need for the golden shield. You're better off putting those on teammates because you already have fast healing. So, it's good to kind of spread that love around your team. But obviously, if everybody else has gold on your team, you can pick one up. But I'd recommend sticking with purple as your max armor to make sure that you can give your teammates gold if they don't already. Also, that revive, when they're knocked down, is incredibly nice. You also deploy an impenetrable shield wall, so it makes that fast res basically uninterruptible unless someone flanks that shield or tosses a grenade over it. We have the dock heal drone, so the drone of compassion automatically heals those that near it over time. So when you deploy that on the ground, it will heal yourself as well as any allies. But technically, enemies can be healed by it as well. But basically, anybody near it who's injured will get healed by the Q. And then your ultimate is our care package. So you drop in a full care package of quality defensive gear. So you usually get like an attachment of some sorts, either like meds or shield cells. And then you also can get extra armor, helmet, body armor, knockdown shield, etc. Really good for keeping your team defensively kitted. So Lifeline's Q is an extremely good tactical skill to bring to a team. Being able to bring extra flesh shields to a game of Apex Legends where you basically can have your team save syringes for really, really intense fights is very, very crucial. So if you're fighting a group of enemies, you guys just finished taking down an enemy team and you want to heal back up without, using all of your meds, simply deploy the health drone. And as you can see, it will heal you back up. Now, it only can heal a certain amount. So if it's healing one person, it can basically heal a full health bar. If it's healing 2 people, it will split the amount of healing the drone can do between those 2 people. And then if there's 3 people, it will split the amount it can do between the 3 people. So it does have a finite amount of healing that it can do, but it's just really, really good for keeping your team's health topped off after certain engagements, or maybe you're just coming in from the circle and you guys have taken some circle damage, but you want to make sure that you're healed back up to full before you take a next fight. Using the drone in those situations is crucial. With Lifeline as well, if you're going around a corner and you don't have, let's say it's early game and you don't have any heals yet, you go around a corner, you hide yourself there, and then you deploy the drone and you can heal yourself back up while healing your shields. So if you have a body shield on that took some damage and you took damage to the body shield as well as to your flesh, that's what I typically like to do. Go around a corner, deploy the drone. The drone will heal my health while I heal myself with the shield. So I'm basically healing up twice as fast so I can get back into the fight much, much quicker. And Lifeline does have that fast healing as well, which makes it very easy for her to heal up very quickly. Now her ultimate will deploy this care package. So as you can see, they call it a Lifeline package. So you'll hear a lot of times in a game, people will say neutral care package or Lifeline package. And the Lifeline package has a bit of a different look to it. It's got the blue on the top, which I believe that the neutral care packages do not have, if I'm remembering correctly. You can also see the indicators a little bit different. And like I said in when I was going over the abilities, it will drop the shield cells. It will drop a defensive piece of gear of some sorts, as well as a attachment of some kind. So this is very, very good for keeping your team defensively kitted, making sure everybody has all the attachments they need, and making sure that your team is just ready for the next fight. You basically want to use this in zones and times where you know that you can deploy this and your team can get really good utilization out of this. Another good way to actually use this, if you want to be a little tricky, is you can use it to basically make cover. Let's say I'm fighting this guy in an open area here, and we don't really have any cover, we don't have a lot. You can drop this here, and now you have something to use as cover. You can peek behind it, go behind it to reload, keep attacking your enemies. It's just really, really good to make some deployable cover in a quick bit. We also have everybody's favorite robot, Pathfinder. So Pathfinder also has a low profile passive, increasing his incoming damage taken by 5%. We also have Insider Knowledge for his other passive. So you can scan survey beacons located around the map, which are indicated by symbols on the map, and it allows you to reveal the ring's next locations. Very, very good for knowing where you should rotate to and where the next circle is going to be, so you can put yourself in a quality position to advance into the next round. We also have his Q, the grappling hook, so you can grapple to get to out of reach places quickly. This allows Pathfinder to move insanely quickly on various axes of movement, and it makes him very, very hard to keep up with, chase down, or to escape from. We also have the zipline gun, so it creates a zip line for everyone to use. Really, really good for team mobility. Allows you to get from point A to point B really, really fast. You can get up to certain places that other teams wouldn't be able to get to if they didn't have a Pathfinder on their team. Allows for good engages and good escape. So it's just a very, very good ability. So with Pathfinder, I do absolutely recommend spending some time in the firing range, practicing his grapple. Now, I will just say, before I go over this, I am not a grapple expert. I don't play a ton of Pathfinder, so, my grapples won't be super elite pro or anything. But spending time in the firing range, practicing Pathfinder's grappling is very, very key to success, because you can do some really insane stuff with his grappling hook. And if you practice it and get better at this, your movement will be unparalleled. Now, some of the most common grapples I see, you obviously want to grapple to a location. Now, the best way to do it that I found is to kind of pull away. So whenever, like I just did there, so whenever you Q, you kind of like aim your camera slightly to the opposite direction, which will allow you to help gain some extra speed and momentum to allow you to go further. Using grapple. And then you move your camera back towards the direction that you're going to basically carry that extra momentum that you got from pulling it, you know, making the zip line more taut, so to speak, and then you fling yourself straight. Now, another one that you'll see commonly people do is that they'll grapple the ground. Okay, so like you're running, you grapple the ground, you jump, and then you slide into that. So as you can see, you grapple, then jump, you'll be able to cover a great distance without even anything to latch onto. And if you go into a slide jump afterwards, it just further increases the speed. Now, his ultimate, the zip line, as you can see, can go incredibly far. It can go very, very far.
Ready to fly on a zip line.
Almost across the entire open area here of the firing range. So this is, like I said, very, very good for getting into a fight or escaping a fight. This is just very, very good for team mobility. And that's when you want to use it, guys. You want to use the zip line for if you hear a fight going on and you guys want to get in and third party that really quickly. Pathfinder can deploy a zip line and you guys can get there ASAP. You could also use it if you guys are in a crappy situation and you want to get out. So let's say you're pinned in an area between two teams and you're like, man, we need to get out of here right now. Path can, let's say, deploy a zip line up there. You guys can take that zip, get out, and reposition quickly. And like I said, same thing. If we hear, okay, this fight over there, Path can deploy the zip line and you just ride it on in. You don't just want to randomly use the zip line to travel around locations or to just, you know, move around willy-nilly. You want to save it for those key moments. Or let's say maybe you're in the train yard and you want to get to one of those upper cars. You know, you want to hide there going into the mid or late game, you know, because the circle ends there or something. You can use the path zip line to get up to that location that you really can't reach without it. The next character we have is every tryhard's favorite. We have Wraith. So Wraith's abilities are, again, low profile, more difficult to hit, increasing damage taken by 5%. Now, her passive is Voices from the Void. When you hear a voice when danger approaches, as far as you can tell, it's on your side. So if there's traps nearby or if somebody is aiming at you, you will hear a audio cue that tells you either someone's looking at you or there's traps nearby, and then you can click a button to warn your teammates to let them know that someone's in the area. We also have her Q into the Void, so you reposition quickly through the safety of the Void, avoiding all damage. So when you Q, you basically just fade out. You can't see anybody and nobody can see you. They can see like a little like blue trail behind you, but that's about it. When you use this, you just take no damage, can't deal damage, but it just allows you to do exactly what it says. Reposition very quickly and safely, which is very, very good for aggressive play styles. We also have her ultimate, one of the best team movement skills in the game, the Dimensional Rift. So you basically deploy a portal at one location, you run to wherever you want the second one to be, you place the portal down, and then it links those two locations together, and you can, anyone, enemies or allies, can travel between those 2 points. Very good for safe repositions. I tend to use this more defensively or for repositions in situations that I'm stuck in, but you can use it offensively if you'd like, just, you know, or to, you know, pre-put this down in case you want to do an offensive push, but you want to back out, you know, at some point. But I tend to like to use this more for defensive or crappy position repositioning. Wraith has one of the best designed kits in the game for playing aggressive, similarly to Pathfinder. Those two legends have so much additional mobility. Pathfinder with his grapple to be able to get into and get out of certain situations because of his grappling hook. Wraith also has kind of a similar thing with her Q. I never like to use her Q offensively. I never really like to do that. I use Wraith's Q for one of two things: to either reposition defensively, or if I am trying to place my ultimate and I am going through a really hot area. So, you know, let's say you're fighting, you know, this guy over here, and he starts to light fire on you and you need to reposition. You put your gun away, go your Q, and just reposition out. And then bam, you're in a completely different location and you're able to fight now more on your terms. The good thing is that you can still see, as you can tell, your areas around you, but you can't be dealt damage to, nor can you deal damage. But that's, you know, you're not really wanting to deal damage during that time anyway, because your goal with that Q is to reposition. Now, with her ultimate, the biggest thing I see Wraiths do, a lot of the beginner Wraiths that I play with, is they don't really use the portal, or they just use the portal at the wrong time. At least for me, when I play Wraith or when I play with other Wraiths that are very proficient at Wraith, they use the portal for repositioning yourself. So repositioning yourself in a situation that you do not want to be in. Okay, so let's say, you know, you're fighting these guys over here, right? And you're laying down the fire, and you can't get them killed, and you're just in a really bad position. Or let's say you're behind cover, right? There's 2 teams shooting at you. You guys need to get out. What you can do as Wraith, deploy the portal.
Placing a portal.
And run. And you can also Q during this time, which is another time that I really recommend using it, especially if you're in a hot area. Okay. You place the portal.
Portal placed.
And now your team can safely reposition because they can't take any damage during that time. Granted, they also can't deal damage, but they're in the void. Okay, they're totally safe during that time. Now, another thing that's really, really cool about the portal too is because you don't take any damage, right? If you're on the edge of the circle, and let's say there's a bunch of death boxes out there, what you can do is you can deploy a portal on the edge of the circle as Wraith, run in, deploy the other end, go ahead and loot up, get everything that you need, and portal back out. So it basically allows you to safely reposition between 2 locations. So that's when you want to use it. Don't just use the portal willy-nilly for just the speed boost. That's a huge, huge thing that I see Wraiths do that I think is a big mistake. I mean, granted, if you're like on the edge of an end game circle and you need that speed boost to get in or you're gonna die, yeah, you can use it for that because you do get a speed boost while using her ultimate. But saving it for proper and intelligent repositions is going to be the biggest thing to use Wraith's ultimate properly. So that's what I would do if you're hurt. If you're in a situation and you're thinking to yourself, man, we really do not want to be where we are right now, drop your portal. It's the perfect way to use it. And if you keep that in the back of your mind, you'll become a better Wraith player in no time. We have our next legend, which is Bangalore. So Bangalore has the passive double time. Taking fire while sprinting will make her move faster for a brief time. Her tactical is smoke launcher, which fires a high velocity smoke canister that explodes into a smoke wall on impact. And then we have our ultimate Rolling Thunder, which is kind of like Gibraltar's ultimate, but a little bit weaker. So you call in an artillery strike that slowly creeps over the landscape. So it basically puts bombs over the landscape, and after a delay, they explode. Her Q is also very good for getting your team cloaked out of certain situations. So if you want to escape somewhere, you can use the smoke to basically block your escape and basically kind of cloak that so people can't see you. It's also good to block a res. So if you want to res somebody, you drop a smoke on their location or on a death box if you want to loot it, and then do whatever you need to do inside the smoke so people will have a tough time seeing where you are. Bangalore's tactical actually has 2 charges, so you're able to lay down quite a bit of smoke from her tactical. As you can see, you can cover a very wide area. So what I like to do with Bangalore's tactical is use it when I either want to loot up safely, if I want to res safely, or retreat safely, or just cover my escape. So if you're in a building and you guys want to escape, but you don't want the enemies to see how you're going to go, laying down the smoke clouds their vision, makes it hard for them to see, and it allows you guys to reposition safely, loot up safely, or res safely. And the enemy won't be able to tell where you are unless they have digi threat. Now with her ultimate, you want to use her ultimate similarly to Gibraltar's for zoning. As you can see, this is what her passive looks like. If you're spotted getting shot at, you get that little boost to speed. But you basically, like I said, you want to use it for zoning, and it's a huge thing. If you can put the enemies in a position that is more favorable to you, or you're going to punish them for bunkering in a certain spot and remaining in a location, this is what Bangalore's ult is good for. So, you know, let's say we don't want this guy to stand here. That's our spot. You chuck down your ult. Here they come. And as you can see, it creeps. It reaches from here all the way to that guy over there. It covers a very large area. So even if you're going in for a third party, that's again very similar to Gibraltar. It's another great time to use your ult. If you go in for a third party and you lay this down, the enemies are going to look around and be like, oh damn, because there's bombs everywhere. They need to then instantly go like, okay, where can I reposition to not get hit by these bombs and not take 40 damage? So it is really good for, again, just like Gibraltar, third partying and zoning your enemies out of where they are. So keep those things in mind when you are going to use Bangalore's ultimate. Our next legend is Caustic. So Caustic, similarly to Gibraltar, because he has a bigger hitbox, does have the fortified passive, which increases his damage, incoming damage is reduced by 15%, and he is not slowed by bullets. He has his passive Nox Vision, which allows him to gain threat vision on enemies moving through your gas. So basically, if somebody is damaged by his gas, they're highlighted in green so that he's able to see their outline. We also have his Q, which is the Nox Gas Trap. So you can place up to 6 canisters that release deadly Nox gas when shot or triggered by enemies. Now you can also you can shoot those as well, or your allies can shoot them, but if an enemy walks near it, it will trigger and trip off. Do keep in mind that this can affect your allies, but it doesn't damage them, okay? Just like Bangalore's ult does not damage your allies, Gibraltar's ult does not damage your allies, but this will slow and blind your allies. Not as bad as your enemies, but it still will. So it is something to keep in mind if you're playing Caustic or playing with a Caustic. Just like when Gibraltar or Bangalore use their ultimates, it will slow allies but not damage them. Again, all things to keep in mind when playing your legends. And his ultimate, Nox Gas Grenade, is just a grenade that puts down Nox Gas. So as you can see, Caustic's all about the Nox Gas. He has canisters that deploy it, and his ultimate is just a grenade filled with it. Really, really good for zoning out large areas or locking down a building. You can also use the canisters to like block doors and stuff. So very, very good legend for defensive play. Now, one of my favorite legends is Caustic. Caustic is incredibly fun to play. Now, basically what he has is he has these Nox traps. So I'll put one near an enemy and show you what they do. So you put the gas trap, it trips, and when you're in the gas, if this was a player, he'd be outlined in green. Now, basically, Caustic can move freely throughout the gas, okay? But enemy Caustics can also move freely throughout the gas as well. Now, the way that his traps work on enemies when you put them down, this guy is a bad example because he's already basically dead. And it only deals health damage, by the way. It does not deal shield damage. You put the trap down, it'll go off, and then he takes damage ticking. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but then it caps out at 10, and it will cap out at 10 damage per second. But as you can see, that guy got chunked. So it's when you put down those Nox traps, you're going to zone out an entire area because people are not going to want to walk into these traps because that does deal a significant amount of damage. Now, if you are fighting an enemy Caustic, shooting the bottom of the trap will immediately disable it, which is something to keep in mind. But putting traps in certain locations is going to be really, really smart for basically kind of like blocking out a building. So let's say like this rock right here is a door, okay? If you put the trap behind the door, it will prevent the door from being opened because the trap will literally physically block it. So it's really, really good when you're trying to lock down a building to put the traps in front of the door so that enemies can't just breach through that door. They'd have to shoot the trap, destroy the door, shoot the trap, and then wait for the trap to finish going through, releasing all the gas, unless they want to take all that Caustic damage, and then they're able to walk in freely. Now, you are able to have 6 traps down at a time, which is something really, really crucial to keep in mind. And you can also use traps for cover. If you're in an area that you don't want to be in, right, and you can also throw down a trap, you know, shoot behind it, crouch behind it, and if it goes off, shoot, and it's basically deployable cover that you can use. I'll also use this again if I'm going for a loot or a res in a shitty situation. You basically put down the trap. I mean, look at the area this blanks off, and you can go in, loot, res safely. Okay, people will still be able to see you guys, but nobody will be able to come in and disrupt that. So, and it does obviously block their vision. So a lot of times they'll see a Caustic trap and be like, okay, I don't want to go in that area. So it allows you to do some stuff safely in locations that maybe you won't be noticed. Now, one thing I love to do with Caustic, if I'm in, and I have a good clip of this that I'm going to put in a montage at some point, is if you're in a really bad situation, if you're low on HP and you need to heal and you go into a room or something, what I like to do, put this at one end of the room, this at the other end of the room, you shoot them for cover, and then if people still go through it, you toss out your ult, which deploys a huge area, and look how much area you've covered with smoke. It is absolutely huge amount of area that people will not be able to go into. So Caustic's ult is really, really good for being like, I don't want any enemies in this zone. And so you basically throw his ultimate out, you put it there, and people will not be able to enter that zone. Another good thing of Caustic's ult, pushing a location. So if you're going to be going into a building, if you're going to be going and fighting an enemy behind their own cover, chucking your ultimate in there will zone them out of that open area cover. But if you chuck that ultimate into a building, you're basically saying enemies will not fight in this area because if you do, I will win. So it will basically force them into a different part of the building. Now, another thing with Caustic traps is realizing that you can chuck them pretty far distances. Okay, and just like throwing grenades, if you get used to Caustic's distances on his trap travels, you can be pretty accurate with where they land. and getting them close enough to enemies and putting them in locations that you want them to be in without having to travel that whole distance to just manually place them on the ground. We also have everyone's favorite bamboozler, Mirage. So Mirage's passive is Encore, where he automatically drops a decoy and then cloaks for 5 seconds after he is knocked down, so you can basically move to a safer location or somewhere where your enemies don't know where you are, so that your allies can eventually come and safely res you. His Q is Psych Out, so you send a holographic enemy a holographic decoy to confuse the enemy. So basically you can use his Q. I'll go over some ways in a minute to intelligently use his Q. Basically, you can put out a hologram that looks exactly like you, has your weapons and everything, so you can try to basically confuse your enemy into thinking, not knowing which one is you and not knowing which one is the clone. Do keep in mind that if enemies do shoot the clone, it will ping out to you and to allies where they are located, so it is something to pay attention for. And this ultimate is Vanishing Act, where he deploys a team of decoys to distract enemies while he cloaks and goes completely invisible. Keep in mind his footsteps are still visible, like when he kicks up dirt, and they could also still be heard, but otherwise he is completely invisible. Making effective use out of Mirage is all about mind games. If you do not try to use a little bit of psychology while you play Mirage, you're not going to be a very successful Mirage. You need to use your clones in situations where you think people will actually shoot at them. If you're just, you know, in the open fighting this person over here, right, and you just go bam, and you keep fighting, why would he shoot this clone? There's no reason for him to shoot this. Absolutely none. You want to use the clones in a situation where you think, okay, somebody would believe this is me. Somebody would believe this is me, and somebody would shoot at this. Okay, so let's say you are behind cover or something, right? And you want to start to move somewhere. You can actually, you know, if you're fighting an enemy, you know, you're fighting somebody down there, and you peek behind cover, and you go, okay, I'm gonna actually reposition over there. You deploy your clone, make it look like he's going for the reposition. Somebody will shoot that, and then they'll be pinged where they are. Another thing that you can do is if you're crossing an open field, I just gotta wait for the passive, the Q to come back up. If you want to cross an open field, right? You can use the clone, run alongside of it. So it basically gives you a 50-50 chance that they're not going to shoot at you and that they'll instead shoot the clone. During that time, though, obviously, if you slide jump or do anything else, they're going to know which one's the clone and which one's not. So again, at that point, you're going to basically need to just open field sprint. Another good way to use the clone to make it more believable, if you're going to be passing behind cover, so let's just pretend this cover here. Actually, let's use the Lifeline pack as an example. If you're going to be passing behind cover and you want people to think that you're going to slide past it, you can slide Q, and the clone will slide. Obviously, I would aim a further distance than what I did, but you can slide Q. People will go, okay, that's you. They'll shoot. You're behind cover, so you can lay down shots on them as well, okay? Another thing I like to use. Let's say that I want to go for all that sweet armor over there, okay? We're in a hectic fight. I'm behind cover, okay? I know that there's a couple people over there, and I want to see, you know, thank them to see I'm going for that loot. You queue towards the loot. They'll start to shoot at the clone because they think, okay, he's going to the armor swap or something. You shoot on them. So you want to use the clone, as you can see, in situations where somebody would legitimately believe this is Mirage going to do something. So a little bit of psychology with that. Now, in terms of his ultimate, I tend to like to use his ultimate for escaping or repositioning. I've tried it with offensive flanks, and I've seen a lot of people go, oh, it's when it's so good. You got to use it to offensively flank. The thing with that, though, if you put yourself in a bad position when you do that, that is an all or nothing play. All or nothing play. Because at that point, you are in. You are in there, and you have no way to get out. So do keep that in mind if you use his, you know, let's pretend these are enemies, right? If you use his ultimate to flank while your team is, you know, maybe bunkered down behind cover over here, you need to make sure that your team is ready to follow up with you or you're just going to get blasted, okay? Now, what I like to do with his ult is obviously if I'm taking a lot of damage, you can use his ult to get out. But if I'm fighting a group of enemies, right? Let's say I down one or two and I want to reposition around them, use the ult. You get around them, lay the fire, so they don't know where you are, okay? I've done that in fights before where, you know, I'm fighting, let's say, two people in a building, okay? And I down one, I use the ult, reposition behind the second, and then shoot that person down. So that's basically when you want to try to use his ult. Repositioning for flanks and unsafe situations or for escaping. When I say like safe repositions, I've tried the flank at the start of a fight, you know, on a 3-man team. And like I said, if they just team shot you, you're just going to instantly go down. So flanking the enemy in situations where like an offensive reposition like that is good. That's really the best time to use it. Our next legend, everyone's favorite speed demon, is Octane. So Octane has the passive Swift Men. While not taking any damage, he restores HP over time. His Q allows him to move 30% faster for 6 seconds. Now, it does cost health to use, and he does have a reduction to slows while this is active. So this makes Octane move incredibly quickly and gives him very, very strong mobility. And then his ultimate is Launchpad. So he puts down a deployable launchpad that will catapult its users through the air, can allow you to reposition. The only bad thing about this ultimate is it does put you in a vulnerable position because you're just kind of flying through the air and you're susceptible to bullets and gunfire. So it is something to keep in mind when traveling on that jump pad. Now, Octane is pretty straightforward to use in terms of his skills. His Q makes him run very quickly. So you basically want to use this whenever you want to reposition or cover a large distance in a little amount of time. His Q is very, very straightforward. Not really a lot to it. You just have to keep in mind, it does cost you some health. So if you use it in a tricky situation, just realize that you are now decreasing your amount of health and you're decreasing the amount of damage that you can take from your enemy's bullets. This is something to keep in mind. Now, his jump pad, again, very similar to Pathfinder Zipline, should be used to either engage, disengage, or to get to a location that you guys would take much longer to get to or wouldn't be able to get to without the jump pad. So, you know, if you guys need to get out, the only tricky thing, though, with the disengage, though, you are just literally lofted through the air. So you need to be really, really careful where in terms of the map you are when you use Octane's jump pad to disengage. So generally, I kind of like to use the jump pad for repositioning just because it allows you to kind of move a little bit quickly. So you're going and you're able to cover a distance fairly quickly, especially if you slide afterwards, okay? So using the jump pad to reposition quickly is the best way to do it. But I have used it offensively before. If you guys, you know, you're trying to cover a great distance, right? And you see a team fighting in the distance, you hop in, you start engaging the enemy. So it's again, it's very similar to Wraith and Pathfinder with everything I've gone over with them. Is you just want to use it to reposition. That's the best thing. Ults like this are used for repositioning. So if you're in a situation where you think, okay, we need to be up there, or we need to be over there, or we do not want to be here, that's when you use the jump pad and use it to get out. Just remember, one thing to keep in mind with the Octane jump pad, and the reason why he isn't as good as Wraith or Pathfinder, when you're in the air like this, you are totally open to gunfire. So it is something to keep in mind. Our next legend, one of my personal favorites, is Wattson. So Wattson also has the low profile passive, which makes her more difficult to hit, and incoming damage is increased by 5%. And now passive is Spark of Genius. Ultimate accelerates fully charge Wattson's ultimate. Stacking near interception pylons boosts Wattson's tactical recharge rate. So basically, whenever you stand near Wattson's pylon, you can use your Q way more frequently. And ultimate accelerants will give you that full ultimate. So you can always make sure that you have your pylon up. So I try to always keep one ultimate accelerant on me so that after I use my pylon, I could just ult the accelerate and I'll bam, have another one up and ready to go should my first one get destroyed. Now, her Q is perimeter security, so you can create electrical fences by connecting nodes. Fences damage and slow enemies, and every node can only have 2 connections, so you can only connect it to 2 different nodes. You cannot connect it to, like, 3 different nodes and make a spider web. It has to be like one node, each node can have 2 different connections, but that's it. We also have the interception pylon. Now, you can place an electrified pylon that destroys incoming ordnance and repairs damage shields. At the time of recording this video, it will also destroy outgoing ordnance. So if you're by the pylon and you try to throw a grenade out, it will get intercepted. But it also does intercept incoming grenades. It basically prevents all grenades on the location. And like I said, it also does repair damaged shields, which is really, really nice for keeping your team's shields topped off when you do stand nearby. Do keep in mind, though, that the shield repairing also does affect enemies. So for Wattson, something to remember is that the ultimate accelerants will fully charge her ultimate. As you can see, this thing's got a little bit of extra electricity on it. So she is basically uses that. Boom. She has fully charged ulti. Now, her fences are basically everything. Okay, proper fence usage and proper placement of the pylon. Now, what I like to do whenever I'm fencing up, let's say 2 doors, right, is I like to make a crisscross pattern. So I put a pylon here, pylon here,
Setting a fence.
a pylon here, and a pylon here.
Fence in position.
So it makes this crisscross pattern, and then what you do afterwards, you connect this 4th pylon back to the 1st.
Playing with fences.
So it creates this zip pattern so that no matter what combination of walls people walk through, they will get damaged at least twice. So creating this kind of pattern will allow people to take extra damage, okay? Now, as you can see when placing nodes, I can see on the right side of my screen how many nodes I have placed, and that's the and you can also see the maximum number of nodes that I can place at a time. Now, if you want to, and as you can see, like I said, you can only have 2 connections to each node. If you go near a node and press E, you'll be picking it up. Now, if I wanted to re-extend this node, as you can see now, I only have 3. Bam,
Fence deployed.
re-extended. Okay, and I could also reconnect it if I want to, back to this one.
I'm fencing.
Now, if you're playing against Wattson and you want to get rid of these fences, I can't do this, I guess, since they're mine. You're just going to shoot the base. Now, what I like to do if you're trying to fence up a building, really quickly, what I do is I find a safe spot to put my ultimate. Where can I put this ultimate that it will not get shot at very easily, but can still intercept grenades in this large area, as you can see? So basically what I do is I'll find a safe spot, I'll lay it down,
Shush
and
now.
it stays
No
there
more storms.
until it is destroyed. It does not go away, but you cannot have more than this pylon up. You can only have 1. And then at that point, your shields will be regenerating, and you can start placing nodes like an absolute madwoman. And as long as you're in the range of your ults, your nodes will charge incredibly quickly.
Setting a fence.
I know I just made this like really weird pattern, but your nodes will charge incredibly quickly. As you can see, they're already recharged, okay? So that's basically how you want to use Wattson's ult. Is if you're, like I said, you're trying to lock down a building, you place down the pylon, and you just start fencing like a madman. And let's say you go down to the 1st floor and you fence it all up. You come back up to wherever your pylon is, you stand near it, you let your Q recharge, and then you go back to fencing. Now, you could also use Wattson's pylon, like let's say maybe you're fighting in an open area and you're not in a building, right? Let me just ult the Excelli again real quick. You're in an open area and you're not in a building, and you just, you need to make a defensive bunkered position instantly. You get behind some cover here, you're fighting, right? You just lay this down.
Shush now.
Maybe make
No
a
more
small fenced area,
Putting down a fence.
kind of based off of what's there.
Fence placed.
What covers there. And now you have a little mini area that you can stand behind. So if somebody wants to try to push into you guys, they have to go through your fence. If they try to toss grenades over your cover, your pylon will intercept them. So she's really, really good for bunkering and making a defensive area in a pinch. Which is why you see her on so many ranked squads and why all the pros use her. She's really, really good for locking down an area and especially locking down a building. Our final legend is a new kid on the block in Season 3, and that is going to be Crypto. So Crypto's passive is Neuralink. So Crypto and his teammates will see what his drone detects up to a 30-meter distance. And his Q is that drone itself, so you can deploy an aerial combat drone, and that will have a 40-second cooldown if it's destroyed. And you can basically pilot that around or place it somewhere if you'd like and monitor a certain area, or, the Q can just go around and you can kind of see where enemies are. It'll ping them to your team. Then you can eventually put it somewhere, back out, and be back in the fight. And then his Z is his drone EMP. So his EMP charges from the drone's location itself, which is why placing it in a smart location where it can't be shot and, people won't be able to take it down is very important. Otherwise, he'll lose his ultimate. So it charges from the drone, and then the blast deals 50 shield damage, slows players, and destroys traps. Keep in mind, it will also slow allies. It won't damage allies, but it will slow allies, and that 50 shield damage would also apply to you, like getting hit with your own grenade if you were within range. Now, the key to playing a good Crypto is all about juggling between your drone and actually playing Crypto himself. If you spend way too much time in your drone, you're going to be a detriment to your team because you're going to be putting them into too many 2v3 situations. So basically what I like to do whenever I'm playing Crypto is one of the first things I do once I get looted up and everything is I like to hide and go into my drone and place my drone somewhere. Okay, so as you can see when you're in the drone, it'll ping enemies. So if I was to exit this, I'd still be able to see that enemy on my map because my drone has him in range and it will constantly ping him. Okay, so I re-enter my drone here.
Watch my back.
What I like to do though, if this guy right here decides, hey, this drone's pissing me off and he shoots it, it'll be destroyed. I won't have a drone for 40 seconds, which means I have no passive, no tactical, and no ultimate. Okay, so basically what I like to do during a gunfight, find a spot to put this where people really won't notice it, leave it there, and then actually do your fighting. You just have to keep in mind that the drone is pretty loud. Okay, people will be able to see it with the red aura around it, and it will say drone detected. So putting it in a location during a fight where you don't think people will notice it because they'll be too consumed with the gunfire and then they don't want to go searching for the drone is really, really key. Also, let's say, you guys are facing this way and you just want to have some eyes behind you, placing the drone behind you, looking the opposite way is really, really good. It'll allow you to kind of ping where people are if people are coming on your flank. Or if somebody destroys your drone, okay, someone's probably coming from behind me. Now, with his ult, you can use his ult if you're inside the drone or outside the drone. That is something to keep in mind that I don't think some people know, is you can use his ult if you're not in the drone. You don't have to sit in the drone to use his ult. Now, putting the drone in a location while ulting that it won't be easily shot down is so key to success. Is so ridiculously key to success. Because if you just put the drone up in the air and just let me just use my ult, people will just shoot down and now you didn't use your ult and now you don't have a drone for 40 seconds. So you want to, let's say we're inside the drone. If you're behind, in an area like this, right, with a lot of cover, you just lay it down. You can also exit the drone and go in and start shooting people while the drone EMP goes off. But it's all about putting the drone in a smart location where it won't get shot. Now, another thing that you can do with the drones, EMP specifically, is let's say you and your team want to push a building and there's a Wattson in there, a Caustic in there, or you just know that there's a team in there that you want to take some damage off of before you guys actually charge in. You put the drone in, use the EMP, because the EMP does all axes, okay? It does have Z-axis damage. You put it, let's say on the top of the building. Let's say they're all just bunkered in, not on top. You put the drone on top of the building, you use your EMP, all traps will be destroyed. They'll all take 50 shield damage. Then you guys can storm the building with all of your opponents either being broken, having white armor, or less. Now, that's going to be it for me today, guys. That is my beginner quick start guide to every legend inside of Apex Legends. Hopefully, you guys learned something today, picked up some basic tips about the legends, understand their abilities now if maybe you didn't know what they did. And if you guys learned something from this and you like this video, please smack a like on it. If you guys have any comments or questions about any of the legends, please leave a comment below and let me know below who your favorite legend is and why. I know me personally, my favorite legend is Wattson. I usually play the third man on my team because literally all of my friends play Wraith or Pathfinder. So I like to play Wattson since I typically play the third man on the team. And if you guys like these videos and want to keep up with these as well as gameplay videos as well as other guides, please hit that sub button as well as the bell to keep notifications on. So thank you guys so much for stopping by today. I very much appreciate it. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next one.